believe it or not, Meghan McCain said something about Pete Buttigieg that we both agree on. So why don't we go to that video?
Yep.
I'm not going to try to burst the bubble here, but there's always a sparkly, shiny object in primary politics. I can remember when like Herman Cain was polling really high. Newt Gingrich at one point, I think he won South Carolina during primary politics. So he did. I'm just saying. So there's always there's always a bright, shiny candidate. Howard Dean, and then infamously like yelled whatever. My problem with Mayor Pete right now, for a few different reasons, is I don't know if we would be talking about a candidate who was polling at 0 or 1% with white voters the way we are talking about candidate who is polling with 1% with black voters. He has a serious problem and blind spots with the African American community.
Wow, that was good analysis.
Yeah, I agree. So there's tiny little parts that I don't agree with completely, but overall, nicely done. And do you know, right now, Marianne Williamson is out polling Pete Buttigieg in South Carolina among black voters.
Wow.
Okay, now I like Marianne a lot, and she's actually been fantastic on African American issues. She's the strongest on reparations, and she keeps saying a debt is owed, okay? But what is Pete Buttigieg saying? What is Pete Buttigieg's record on African Americans in South Bend? Now, we're gonna show you poll numbers that are in favor of Pete Buttigieg because we actually do the news and we care about what's real and true. So, and then we can all analyze it together. But for now, as we get to his good polling numbers, I'm curious whether the media is gonna do its job and actually care to investigate Pete Buttigieg, or if he's just gonna get a free ride forever.
Yeah, so some of the polls show that he's experiencing a spike. So let's talk about that. A November telephone poll conducted by noted Iowa pollster Ann Selzer for CNN and the Des Moines Register saw Buttigieg soar to 25% support in the state, meaning Iowa, with Senator Elizabeth Warren in a distant second place at 16%. Warren was found to be essentially neck and neck with former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, who each received 15% support. So look, Buttigieg has been hyper-focused on Iowa. He's put a lot of resources into Iowa. I'm not surprised that he's polling well in that state. But is that going to translate into him eventually becoming a front runner? I doubt it.
So look, first of all, fair is fair. I think it's real. I've now seen a number of polls trending in Buttigieg's direction. Then last week you took the lead for the first time in a poll. Now this is the second time he's taking the lead, and it's past the margin of error. So when it doesn't do the establishment any good when they ignore good polling of Bernie Sanders, and it doesn't do us any good if we ignore the good polling of Buttigieg. You got to be real on the facts. So right now, I think it's definitely real that Buttigieg is leading in Iowa. So if you're a progressive, that's a huge problem, because the press, if he wins Iowa, will go nuts. They already love him. Did you know he speaks Norwegian? Okay, and so they'll say, that's it, we got a new champion, he's the greatest of all time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a real issue. Now, Buttigieg is a smart guy, no one doubts that. And in terms of politics, I think he's playing the best hand he's got. He played a lot of good hands to get to where he is in the first place. And in terms of Iowa, he's putting all of his chips in, and he's got a lot of money. He doesn't have as much as Bernie or Warren, but he's close. He has more than Biden, more than everybody else, and he's putting all of his chips into Iowa, and it's working. And it's not just ads. He's got a giant ground operation in Iowa. So credit where credit is due. So, but on the other hand, for the establishment crowd, holy cow, Biden's slipping like crazy.
I mean,
yeah, so
if Biden weren't slipping like crazy, I would just question like the American electorate overall, not because Anna disagrees with Biden and she's being too judgmental. No, but because Biden, he's barely keeping it together, man. Like, let's keep it real, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's fading quickly. And so he can't defend himself. His answers are super antiquated. I mean, he's just far to the right of even moderate Democrats.
Yeah, and if you're saying, hey, wait a minute, Biden and Sanders are tied at 15%, so why is Biden slipping? Because Biden had higher numbers, right? Bernie, even before the heart attack and then at the heart attack, his numbers dipped pretty significantly. And before that they had been rising, and then they dipped, and Biden was at the top, but now he's lost all momentum and he's fallen like a rock. So if this, and now with Warren going a little bit more towards the center and a lot of the progressives starting to rally back to Bernie, that could shape up of Buttigieg versus Bernie, which would be really interesting because just a month ago, it seemed like it was gonna be Warren versus Biden, right? Super interesting if you care about politics. Now, how does a Sanders versus Buttigieg play out? Well, you're gonna get caught. So right now, the press fawning. I mean, not one critique of Buttigieg, not one. And their excuses, well, he's not leading. All we do is attack whoever's leading. Well, you said Sanders wasn't leading and you attack him nonstop. But anyway, let's get past that. They did turn on Elizabeth Warren when she got to #1, right?
Yep.
So let's see. And I really, they might, because they do. That is a thing in the press that when someone gets to the top, they're like, oh, fine, let's do journalism, right? Oh, you're in third place. If you're one of my guys, I'm not gonna do journalism. But when they get to #1, they do often do it, so it might happen. But boy, if they don't, that would be the biggest case of bias I have ever seen, right? And so just for God's sake, go ask anybody in South Bend.
That's right.
Go talk to anybody in South Bend, right? And if they don't do that, then they're the worst of the worst. So we're gonna find out all together. So if the media does even 5% of its job, and besides the internet's the internet, I think Buttigieg is gonna get caught. So all this for, great progressive policies for whoever wants it is not a thing. And for all of his intelligence and his smooth talk, etc., he's not a progressive. And him trying to thread the needle of, I hate the progressive ideas, I'm gonna bash them so I could win, while at the same time having big shiny progressive labels, it ain't gonna work. You're gonna get caught. Here comes Bernie. And I'm not saying that about the poll numbers today. That's my theory. So you're gonna get to see it again in real time, whether Bernie actually starts to climb in Iowa and then takes the top spot. So right now, the mainstream press would look at that and go, Buttigieg is at 25 and rising, Bernie's at 15, you're nuts. Fair, but let's see the future. If those political trends are right, and if I'm right about how progressive the Democratic voters are, then we'll see Bernie rising, okay? You mark the time, let's see what happens. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.